Welcome to Dynasty Playbook. It beeped twice. I don't know why I did that. Welcome to Dynasty Playbook, where the expertise is made up and the combine numbers don't matter. I'm your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DrewDotsonNFL. With me is my co-host, as always, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBombIDP. Tyler Boyd did not participate in the combine as far as I'm concerned right now. I have research to do before I have an opinion. And now to Tyler. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. So there was actual kind of football this weekend in a roundabout way.
Kind of. I mean, I guess you could call it that. There's football on dick.
It was better than the previous weekends, and now we got the bridge has been gapped until the pro day numbers come out, and everybody, lowers their 40 time by 2 or 3/10, and and then we got the draft, and it's just happening. We're moving along. It'll be here before you know it.
Honestly, the thing I'm most excited about is just we'll have more shows done, which means we'll have more guys like in-depth scouted. So my board feels more legit going into the NFL draft. I think you're going forward at least soon. We should probably bump it up to 2 prospects a week, just because there's not enough weeks in the off season to get to everybody.
True, and we got to start doing some defenders as well, because that's fun.
We need to do some IDP playbook. We need to do one before it hits free agency, and then a post free agency reaction one.
And all hell breaks loose because the scheme changes, and it gets pretty nutty on the IDP side here.
Yeah, we got Laurinaitis rumored to go to New Orleans.
Oh, they like mediocre linebackers. It's kind of their thing, right?
He's way less mediocre than the mediocre linebackers we've been using.
Maybe Lofton-ish. He's better than Lofton.
That's what I'm saying. He's like the guys we've brought in, short of Anthony and Kikaha, have been fairly doo-doo lately.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, David Hawthorne's not the answer. Jeez.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, Laurinaitis would be a nice fit. He's still. I mean, he's not a world beater. If he ever was, he damn sure isn't anymore. But the dude's played 1 million NFL snaps. There's a lot to be said just for that.
Right. If I could get him for free right now, I wouldn't mind doing it because he might give you some stats in the short term to compete with.
Absolutely, he's been. Even the last couple of years when he's been getting leached, he's been a decent IDP play. He's not that, top 5 linebacker he was, at least top 5 IDP linebacker he was a few years ago, but he's no slouch.
No, not at all. And with free agency coming up, get an idea of, what guys you like, what guys you think, what guys you don't like that you might have on your rosters. Start trying to ship them off now, unless you think they are going to gain value. Then obviously, hold on to them and hope something good happens. But if a guy you like is kind of in a weird situation right now, and they have a chance to go to a nice open situation, pay up now. Because there are still some people that aren't paying attention.
Yeah, do it now. Do like we did last year and go get Roy Halou before he hits free agency and then takes 14 snaps on the entire season. My God. What the hell was going on out there? So disappointed in that. It was finally going to be Roy Halou time. Finally, after years of waiting. It's not like Murray went and lit the place on fire. Let's just give the ball to Marcel Reese. Let's just do that. Let's do that over and over.
You know what? They've had more success running with Marcel Reese in the last few years than they have with anybody else.
I refuse to believe he's a better playmaker than Roy Halou. I refuse.
I completely agree. I mean, and Murray, has anybody else made it look so difficult to take like 200-something carries? It's so inefficient. Just like... It's not like it was last year where there's no offense. We have nothing for you. Like there was passing options and a acceptable O-line. He should have been able to do something with it, but he didn't. So he's not very good.
He just didn't. I've seen Zeke mock to Oakland more than a couple times now.
I like that.
Man, that would be super sexy fantasy offense, wouldn't it?
Yup, that's Jacksonville level. That would just further my Jacksonville. Yeah. My Oakland is 1 year behind Jacksonville.
In your Derek Carr propaganda.
I will fight you.
You were heading down that road anyway.
I wasn't. I was just gonna.
You were gonna end up there.
I was just gonna say they both got young, emerging quarterbacks. That number one wide receiver, a strong number two, and if they get Zeke, then they have a strong workhorse running back.
It is pretty awesome that they're turning it around for fantasy purposes because I don't really care about them for NFL. Like real football, who gives a shit? It's all about fantasy points.
Honestly, I'm sick of just watching the same teams be at the bottom every year, to be honest. Like, I want to see Jacksonville go to the playoffs. I want to see Oakland go to the playoffs. Not like every year. I know you don't want to see Oakland go to the playoffs, but
just have it possible for them to go to the playoffs where it hasn't been in years past.
Right. Like, I have the illusion of parity at least. Whereas right now it's like, okay, at least we're going to finish outside, outside of the bottom 10. What happens from there is up to fate. But that got off topic fairly well without going to food. So it's a nice return to form. I like it. Let's move on to our rookie. No, it's not a rookie. Let's move on to our college prospect discussion for the week. And we're finally doing Jordan Howard, who there's not a ton of like draft breakdown film on him, so you kind of have to dig around and find it. But he's a junior running back. Actually, I forgot to pull his age. How old is he?
He is 21 with a November birthday, so pretty young.
Yeah, that's just fine for me. He's really good. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. I'm going to go back and watch Henry and make sure I'm not overreacting, but I could see Howard being my 2 after Zeke. Tyler said it earlier. But just seeing how good he did before I'm supposed to talk about what he did. I could see all those middle tier running backs. I'm going to just be trying to, hoard them all because they're going to be so cheap and I like them all. But Howard is just – it was really hard to find actual flaws in his game. The biggest flaw is he's not just exceptional at anything. He's just really good at everything. He's definitely starter level. He's never coming off the field because he's a more than capable pass blocker. He's a good hands catcher. And not only that, but he's got good ball handling skills going from the reception to the carry. His balance is I take that back. His balance is exceptional. For as small as he gets to the hole and the hits he takes and just bounces off and just doesn't lose his balance. It's pretty impressive. He's a strong runner. Not in the way that Alex Collins was, where it was, the word we used was violent. He's not running violent. He's just running strong. Like, there's some force behind his running. He's constantly moving his feet, which I think every time it's brought up, Tyler and I love that. He's playing to the whistle. He's probably, I'd say, a quarter of his yards off last season probably came after he'd already been engaged, and he's just dragging them along for a couple yards. But yeah, he's really good at pass blocking, and Tyler and I don't completely agree. I think he might be the best pass blocking running back in this class, which is, that's, as a rookie, that's going to get you on the field. That's getting you snaps. That's getting you early carries. And that's going to lead to a huge increase in value from the rookie to the second year. And he runs good in between the tackles, outside the tackles. His open field vision on like your sweep plays, not particularly impressive. but like his open field vision at the second level is good. No breakaway speed, but overall, I mean, I like him a lot. He's not going to be the guy that breaks off a 60-yard touchdown because the DB is going to catch him. But even once the DB catches him, he's still going to drag him for another 7 or 8 yards. So there's really not a whole lot bad I have to say about him. Maybe you saw some flaws I didn't.
Not really. He's just a really good football player. Our buddy Tony Foligno from the Couch Coach crew has been banging the table for Jordan Howard for weeks on end here, and Tony is smack in the middle of Big Ten country, so I'm like, yeah, whatever. Whatever, Tony. Jordan Howard is good. He's real good. And I think his game is going to translate really, really well to the next level because of the style of runner that he is. Even when we're talking one-back set out of the gun, he's not fucking around. He's getting up in the hole and go, and he's nasty. You know, it's one plant and get it moving. He finds the hole. Like Drew said, when he's on the sweep, he's almost always looking to get it back inside. He's almost seeking contact, which is pretty sexy for me. You know, almost like it kind of reminds me of almost like a Carlos Hyde light. Like the things that I liked about Hyde on tape, I think Howard brings a lot of that similar style to the table. I don't think he's as dynamic as Hyde was in college. He's not as dynamic as Hyde was in college, but he's just a really good football player. I could see this guy being, you know, redraft relevant next year. I know we're doing a lot of projecting here because we didn't even know where he's going to go in the NFL, but this guy's an NFL running back, period. As far as his pass blocking, he knows where to go. He knows what he's doing. He's willing. He likes the contact. I saw him get Peter rolled a few times. I don't remember if it was on one of the YouTube tapes or on the draft breakdown tapes. They were playing some podunk school from Florida or some shit.
Yeah, the FIU.
It was FIU. Yeah, he steps up in the hole, and this rushbacker just cremated him. It was awesome. But he was in the right spot. You know, he stepped right into the hole to pick up the blitzer, exactly what he was supposed to do. So, you know, where I have him in my running backs, I don't know. Could he be my number 2? Yeah, really, really easily he could be my number 2 because so often when I'm watching running backs, it's just like meh. You know, I get bored rather quickly, but Howard, I just soaked up everything of him. I just like the way he plays. He looks like the kind of guy you just don't want to mess with this guy. You know, he's physical. He's always moving. He's looking for contact. Just a solid back. And the fact that they ran that style of offense and he was able to churn yards the way that he did is even more impressive to me. You know, he's almost the antithesis of his former teammate, Tevin, looking for a seam and go. But
the home run play
went down on first contact more often than not. Whereas Jordan Howard's just the complete opposite of that. So solid player. I'm gonna like to get my hands on him.
Yeah, you talk about him being potentially redraft relevant. I think it was Tony that was talking about it, grabbing him at the end of MFL 10s. If y'all are drafting MFL 10s right now, that's a great late round get because that's where you win your MFL 10s anyways, or at least that's what I've been told because I play like 2 of them a year because redraft is yucky.
I'm doing one right now.
I'm sorry.
It was my freebie. I got second in one last year, whatever. Do you remember last year when we did that 70-round startup in 7 days?
Yeah.
All right, this MFL 10 started last Monday, and we're in round 9. And it shouldn't make me angry, but I get irrationally angry over this. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't want this to turn into a make your picks rant. Come the fuck on. It is February. And you're hardcore enough to be drafting fantasy football in February, you'd think you'd be chomping at the bit a little bit more. So I love my fantasy league, everything they do. The MFL 10s, it's a great platform. Just make your damn picks, people. Please.
I feel like it wasn't too much later in the year last year that I made this same rant.
My God. I don't understand.
It's it's beyond me. It's not like the redraft guys where everybody just kind of swarms in, like, yeah, we'll do some work leagues and Bert Dur. Like, no, you guys are fiending for football right now. You're not dedicated enough to do Dynasty, or you're doing both. And if you're doing Dynasty and MFL 10s and you make people wait on picks, you are the devil. That is not okay. Because, I mean, you know what it's like. You're used to having long draft clocks. You should know how to handle it. So you're that guy in the draft that holds everybody hostage. Don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy.
Man, I almost miss you. Even when you very first started playing and you'd get into like the Yahoo or the ESPN draft lobby and you're on the clock for like 90 seconds and the entire draft is knocked out in no time flat. I almost kind of miss that sometimes.
I did one of those this year because my favorite fantasy tool for tracking my stats is the ESPN stat tracker thing. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because that's what I started on. But I realized, like, right before that Thursday night game, week 1, I'm like, oh, I don't have any leagues anymore. I can't use it. So I just jumped in this rando league, didn't pay attention to the scoring or anything, and I just drafted. I drafted a playoff team, I guess.
It's kind of fun, man.
It was certainly entertaining.
You get in, make your picks, get out. But yeah. And off the rails. We did it. Jordan Howard's good.
So good.
Put a bullet on it, man. This dude can ball.
But yeah, and you know, where our next topic is combine stuff. He did combine stuff. He didn't run a 40, but other than that, I mean, he didn't do anything real bad. His numbers were fairly solid across the board, if I can remember right. In terms of other guys that I saw that mattered to me was Procise had an excellent day. Who is it? Collins didn't.
Yeah, Collins was kind of messy, man.
I don't even want to talk about wide receivers.
Oh, man. They are athletically, on paper, not great. Josh Doxson pretty much just stroked the whole thing. Just knocked it out of the park. All of it.
Like, we held him down on our boards earlier when we reviewed him just because of his age. You know, he's going to be 24. That's gross, all that stuff. But we saw how good he is on tape. He's probably, in terms of ability, the best wide receiver in this class. And then he shows up and he does work at the combine, which, you know, I don't like letting the combine move my board a whole lot, but that's one of the things that can do it for me. You know, when it's just clear across the board, this is a guy we overlooked. And even if we had him at 3, I feel like we were overlooking him. He might be pushing Boyd for my number 1 spot right now, which, if he was 21, it wouldn't be a question. Doxson would be my number 1. He would have been my number 1, 4 or 5 months ago whenever we watched Doxson. It might have been in the preseason. I can't remember. But he's so good. And at this point, I'm willing to take 6 years of Doxson for a guy that's probably going to give me 4 or 5 years of wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2 production, instead of, a lotto ticket that might pay off. And, I'm not judging Tyler Boyd yet. I'm working on an article that is either going to state my case why I still love Boyd, or reassess and say I was too high on him. I don't know what the results will be yet, but I gotta figure out where I stand on this, because those combine numbers made me sad.
I mean, it was just everybody. But the one thing Boyd does have going for outside of the measurable athleticism, he is silky smooth. When you watch him run the gauntlet, he just looks different than everybody else. Just smooth as silk, hands catching it, tuck it away real quick, stays in line. Just a good football player. But as far as a wide receiver, Dox is just on a different level for me. And I haven't been as high on Boyd as you have. And I've liked Boyd, and I do like Boyd. but he was never that number one for me. So for me, it's Treadwell and Doxson. And God, man, if I'm sitting on the clock right now, like right now, knowing everything that we know right now, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a real tough call there for me. But I was impressed. We've liked him from the get-go. The tape is unreal, and now the athleticism numbers match the tape. That's positive correlation. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, if everything is positive but one aspect, let's look past that aspect. And Boyd has been my number one, and I've been banging the table for Boyd. But I would, as terms of prospects, I still would have taken Cooks over him, who was my number two in that class, maybe number three, depending on what point in the offseason it was. I like Boyd a lot, but to me, it was just he was my number one because I really didn't like Treadwell all that much. I hated Corey Coleman, and I didn't want the old guy. And at this point, I'm willing to take the old guy.
Yeah, this class is kind of screwing with us.
Yeah. I love the middle talent, though, like Carew, Fuller. Those guys are going to be fantastic to grab.
Carew isn't going to be middle talent anymore. Carew's going to be a top 5 rookie pick. No, I mean, it's almost a given. He's going to go in the top 50.
I'm still thinking like 106, 107 probably.
Jeez.
So that's middle first round.
I'm going to end up drafting a bunch of damn running backs this year.
Yeah.
Because of where I'm picking.
But yeah, speaking of Will Fuller, he had a pretty nice weekend too.
Got a 4.33. That's moving. Well, that dude can take the top right off of a defense. We were talking about him earlier and talking about the guys that we typically fade. We fade the Devin Smiths. We fade the Phillip Dorsetts, the Deshaun Jackson types. And Fuller certainly fits that, stereotype of wide receiver, but there's something different about him for me and for Drew too, where it's almost like I feel like I like him more than I should because of the type of player he is, but I just like the guy. I don't know. There's something in my gut with Will Fuller that says he's going to be the real deal.
Right. And, you look at like Devin Smith, Deshaun Jackson, for the most part, they're gadget players. And Will Fuller doesn't feel like a gadget player. He feels like a full-blown wide receiver that just didn't finish growing. I'm kind of looking at him the same way I looked at Cooks. Like, yeah, he's short. That sucks. But look at all the things he did. And he did all the things really good. I like Fuller. Who was it that had Higgins had a shitty weekend?
Almost a 4.7, I think.
Yeah,
like 4.68, something like that. That's slow.
That put some piss in my Cheerios.
But I just don't. I don't know. I've heard people say the speed is his game, and I thought it was the exact opposite for me. I thought the feel was his game. The field awareness was his thing. The my ball mentality was his thing. So I don't know. Higgins is going to be – it's going to depend almost entirely on what the NFL draft tells me with a guy like him. I'm not going to get out of line this year like I've done in the past with the Trey McBrides of the world.
But Trey McBride didn't even grade out as shit. We overvalued his tape.
True.
Whereas Higgins, we like his tape just fine, and then the metrics on top of that are like, yeah, you could just don't bother with this guy.
No, he's barely an athlete.
Kind of like De'Runnya Wilson.
He's still running his 40 right now.
I'm telling you, like
6 o'clock the day after, and he's still running.
Like I could have, when I was at my peak shape, I probably could have run a pretty good 40. I'm a broke dick right now, and I could still torch Wilson in the 40. And then
I wasn't expecting that. I mean, that is slow.
I didn't even think of it. Like I just figured Wilson be like a middle of the pack guy. Mm-hmm. He'll just cruise through combine weekend, whatever.
No, he didn't even. His vert sucked too. I mean, the dude's what 6'6". He didn't even have a vert. I think he just barely got off the ground.
So he's either a low effort guy and put no work in the offseason to get ready, or he's just a clown, like just doesn't know what he's doing. So either way, he's essentially off my board. And, I hate reacting with combine numbers like that, but when it so blatantly says like, hey, you might want to reconsider, I'll listen. Same with like Duke Williams. Duke Williams to me seems like we know the athleticism should be there, but I think just in the year off he had of football where they kicked him out, he just didn't upkeep. He didn't have this. He wasn't self-driven enough to make sure he'd be ready for the combine, and I think that's what bit him in the ass.
What a bummer. I think back a year ago when we were looking at this class, and Duke Williams is in the first round conversation. Darunya's in that late first conversation, and then you take Corey Davis and Mike Williams and Connor and all these guys that were like, boy, the 16 class looks good, and then we come back today and it's like crap. There's a bunch of pretty good running backs, and there's a bunch of, several pretty good wide receivers, and there's Zeke Elliott. And then, it's a bummer, dude. I went out of my way to get 16 picks last year. So on a personal level, I'm feeling this one a little bit.
I think it's still going to pay off fairly well. I don't think that the top-end talent is going to be similar to classes we've seen fairly recently, but I think those are the guys that are going to populate like that 5 through 9 round of a startup. There's going to be guys littered all throughout there for years out of their career, and those are usable starters.
Yeah, you're right, especially with so many guys that play the skill positions going to be washing out of the league here pretty soon. There are a lot of guys getting up there that have been staples for many, many years.
And honestly, a lot of them have been hanging around just because there was nobody to push. I mean, the running back talent previously has been fairly light. Gio was the number 1 running back out of his class. Jeremy Hill and Bishop Sankey, along with Carlos Hyde. I mean, the talent hasn't been there until last year. And even last year, it was all right.
Yeah.
But it's going to be this year and next year, and we're going to start seeing those established vets fighting for their jobs.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get them out of here. Let's get some fresh blood in here.
But yeah, anybody else on the combine you want to hit on?
Not really on the defensive side. Darren Lee shredded. He did what we thought he was going to do. Sub 4.5, just a freak. Bosa did pretty well around the board, which is good.
Buckner looked really good.
Buckner's that's all man right there, man.
He looked slow on his tape. He looked like he had quick feet. Like he was able to move that body fairly quickly today.
Buckner's going to be an attractive target, and not because he's going to be this great edge rusher, because he isn't. He's not going to be a double-digit sack guy, but he's always going to be a D lineman, and he's going to be able to stand up one-on-one blocking, make tackles. And that's where the bread is buttered in IDP is making tackles. And, Buckner's going to be great for that. And same with Bosa too. I just don't see Bosa as an outside linebacker. I just don't. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I'm not nuanced in this, what the pro teams are really looking for. But we've got 2 really nice defensive linemen coming out here, and those 2 guys, not these super high ceiling guys, but solid plays. Think Olivier Vernon types, that get you some tackles, get you some sacks, consistent points, which are very tough to come by on the D line.
Right. And your point about Bosa is he reminds me of Fowler last year, where Fowler could have played outside, but he really should have ended up as an end, which he did. And another guy that comps to a player last year is Noah Spence. Feels a lot like Vic Beasley to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he ends up in a scheme, he'll probably be an end, but he should really be just a 3-4 linebacker.
Yeah, just a pass rusher.
Right. Do the Von Miller thing.
Yeah, and a good one. I mean, the dude's crazy athletic.
He's crazy.
He's just going to be a fade for me in fantasy.
Yeah, same here. Like, crazy athletic, but I'm watching the combine today, listening to Mike Mayock run his stupid hole in his face. Wants to keep trying to comp him to Miller and Mack. And just the measurables are not close. And to me, even the player he is was not as good. and it's just repeating it over and over and over again. So nauseating. But I mean, what else am I going to do? It's a combine. I have to watch it, and I can't mute it because, how am I going to know when they're discussing that a dude's dick popped out in the middle of his 40?
Which was amazing. Poor guy. Poor guy.
I was about to say, how much does it suck to be that guy?
That had to hurt, too. I mean, he fell down, Johnson first, dude. That shit had to hurt.
Oh, yeah. He belly flopped onto it, and then he skid. Like, that's some rug burn level.
That's like AstroTurf down. That's like turf down there. I guarantee you. Oh, that dude's in pain right now.
That dude's having
emotionally and physically. That's not how he wanted it to go. I'd sue Under Armour for all they're worth.
He came back on his second 40 and still ran almost the same time. I'm actually amazed at how fast he did his 40 with his dick out of his pants. I'd have just stopped. Like, I'm gonna put that away now. Can I try that again?
No, I'd have just found a hole to just go bury myself in and be like, yep, I just had a donger flop there on the TV. Not exactly the look I was going for here, but.
And what sucks the most is the way he landed. People are like, they thought he went gimp, and just like the guys that normally do it during the 40, they focus in on him like maybe something messed up. And so if he had just like kind of skirted away real quick, he might have been all right. But instead, they went back and looked like maybe we can see what happened with the injury, and all you see is just flopping around. Oh, that poor guy.
That is horrible. I hope he gets drafted highly and has a great NFL career. I have no idea who he even is, but
he's going to catch hell as a rookie on whatever team he's on.
He's going to catch hell the rest of his. Will for now and ever be dick fell out at the combine guy. There's nothing you can do to shake that stigma. It's like getting a bad nickname in the second grade. That's going to stick with you for your entire life.
That poor guy. Let's hit up our IDP spotlight and move on from this useful conversation. Our IDP spotlight for this week is Morgan Burnett, he was my number one DB going into this year. I think he was year 2, might have been year 1. We liked him, to say the least. And I think people are overreacting extremely to one bad season. Tyler did the numbers last year. There's not really been a DB more consistent than him in the last 5 or 6 years. So why let one bad season that was riddled with injuries, make him drop? He should still be in your top 3 or 4 DBs. And if people are valuing him outside of that, you snag him up. Go get him. Because he's going to be back in that top end category this year. There's just no way he's not.
He's not. We pushed Weddle down our board. All right. Well, Weddle's 31 years old. Morgan Burnett is 27. I think he'll be 28. Like midseason. Still a young man. These safeties, you've seen them. They play forever, especially the good ones, and he's one of the good ones. I don't even think he played till I think he kind of played week 2, and then he missed a game or 2, and then he didn't play. And then when he played, he wasn't getting the tackles. But Morgan Burnett was the most consistent safety over the last 4, 5, 6 years. I think he finished outside of DB6 using the scoring setting that I was using for that study one time. And that time he was like DB11 or something. And that is nuts, especially with the variance that we get in the defensive backfield. It's all over the place as far as, who's going to rise to the top every year. Morgan Burnett, you could just plug him in there. So do I move him behind Rashad Jones? Yeah, I'm moving behind Rashad Jones. Rashad Jones is an animal who had an amazing year. Depending on your scoring format, he could have been your number 1 overall IDP last year, and he was in a lot of mine because the dude's just a super freak. But Burnett, I've seen him get down as low as DB10. I can't wrap my head around that. I just can't. I can't wrap my head around him, being below his teammate, Clinton Dix, who's a nice player. But the thought of taking Burnett after Clinton Dix just makes my head swirl. So maybe I'm little bit too slow to react here, but I don't think so. I think we had just a weird situation all the way around in Green Bay this year on both sides of the ball. And he was hurt. From the very get-go, he was hurt. And something just wasn't right. And then when you watched him play, they kept him out of the box a lot, which tells me he was probably still hurt, just trying to get on the field and help his team win. So Morgan Burnett's going to come at a nice discount this year, and I'm all over it where I don't have him, which is almost nowhere. So, yay Morgan Burnett, one of my favorite players. Awesome player. Still at worst, top 5 Dino DB. At worst for me.
Yeah, I think he's my 3 right now. I think I moved Deion Buchanan over him, and part of that's just because I've become hugely high on Deion Buchanan. And with that, let's hit our submitted questions for the week. Our first one is from @BigPerm3313. He says, "Forget the fantasy football talk. We need a candy playoff bracket: sweet, sour, fruity. Oh, sweet, sour, fruity one
side,
and chocolate on the other side." This right here would be such an in-depth conversation. We'd have to devote a whole show to it. And we appreciate you sending the question in, but there's no way this show doesn't go to 2 hours if we start going into this.
If we go down that rabbit hole, we ain't coming out.
There's no way.
I think we can do it. I think what we could do with a little bit more prep. So we both just kind of jumped on here about 30 minutes before we did the show. Let's knock it out real quick. I think we could stage this out over the course of a few weeks. Have like a little candy playoff bracket. I like the idea. But I don't see chocolate getting out for you or I, either one. I mean, gummy sour is just going to win for me every time.
I don't know. I think chocolate takes it for me.
Really? Ahead of a watermelon sour patch?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
some hot tamales, some sugar babies, some good chewy stuff.
Hot tamale? Why? Why bother with hot tamales?
Get out of here!
I'm serious.
Oh, come on! You serious?
I'm serious.
What is wrong with you?
Just not my thing.
You have no soul. Anyway,
it's not.
Let's put that one to bed. I can't even look right
now. I'm gonna go ahead and make it worse because I didn't bring it up at the start of the show. I told Tyler like 2 weeks ago that just for him, I would try the orange cinnamon rolls, and I did, and I was completely disappointed. They were not good. Not only were they not good, I'm fairly sure the smell of them made me nauseous.
You have bias in your process, period.
Negative. I was ready to go into it with hoping they'd be better than normal cinnamon rolls because I love a normal cinnamon roll. And when you tell me something's better than that, I'm going to give that a shot. But it was not happening. It smelled like the sauce or whatever you want to call it smelled like this weird messed up tang flavor smell, and I couldn't do it.
So you're gonna tell me you don't like tang? Tell me you don't like. Just say it. I want to hear the words come out of your dirty little mouth.
Tang is the wrong one. It's the orange Gatorade powder. But
okay, that's acceptable.
It's like if you poured the orange jugs that you get the Gatorade powder in. If you just poured enough water in it to make it a sludge, that's what it smelled like to me.
What the hell is going on? Those are the great. We grew up on those, man. My brothers and I, we would crush those things.
That to me sounds like bias.
See, my wife won't eat them either. She won't eat them.
Well, she's a smart lady.
Which is fine because I make a can of cinnamon rolls, and guess what? I get all of them. So, all right, let's go to the next question. This one from Twitter @CalebHMD. He's got a 2-part question. Totally unrelated, but I like it. How do you see the Eagles linebacker and D-line shaking out with the change to the 4-3? Also, is Jordan Hicks the player to own? Well, this is interesting. I'm not real sure about the D-line. Fletch Cox is the guy to own there. I think they inked Curry, which is good. I'm not sure what happens with Thornton. We don't know what they're going to do with – I'm going to assume Brandon Graham's going to move to an end, which is fantastic for his value. But Cox is the guy to own regardless whether he's a tackle in. Doesn't matter. The dude's a beast. As far as the linebackers, is Hicks the one to own? I think so. A lot of that's going to be cost dependent. I love Jordan Hicks. Love Jordan Hicks. He's an ex-Longhorn. I liked him all throughout the entire draft process. Then when he got drafted highly, I was doing backflips. Not real sure how this thing shakes out. I don't even know. I think if he's going like within the top 15 linebackers, I think that's a little bit too rich for my blood. Do I think he can be a top 15 linebacker? Hell yeah. If things shake out and he's on the field 100% of the time, yes, he's absolutely a top 15 backer, probably higher than that. But who knows? It's too tough to tell. Kendricks is still an athletic marvel, an absolute freak of a player. And Kiko's going to have a tough time finding a spot with those two because the things that Kiko does well, those two do well, and they also do it better on first and second down than what Kiko does. So I'm steering clear of Kiko. I'm still really cool with Hicks and Kendricks, but I'm watching that price. If I have them rostered, fantastic. If I'm going out and buying them, they better be cheap. If I'm drafting them, they better present good value for me because there's a lot of risk there.
Right. For me, it's both of those guys. If they had a soul situation themselves, they'd be top 10 guys for me probably. But with them both being in that situation they are, it makes me feel like they're both just going to leech off each other. And we're probably looking at low-end LB2s. Kiko they're probably going to play him as safety. Who the hell knows? But the linebacker situation is messy, which normally when we use messy, it's because there's a bunch of mediocre guys, and one of the mediocre guys might get plays over the other one. But Kendricks and Hicks are both really good, and Kiko on third down is really good. I mean, I know we hate on Kiko a fair amount, and some of it's justified, but he's good on third down. There's a reason he's a starter or was a starter, or I don't know what you call him right now.
Well, last year was just so screwy, and getting the coaching regime change is pretty big there. Did you just break your chair?
No, kind of. The lock that keeps me from leaning back popped out, so I just shot back.
See, I instinctively reached out to grab you almost. Whoa, you're falling.
I appreciate that.
But it was so weird last year because Kendricks one game's getting 60% of the snaps, and then he's getting, 85, and then it's back down. It was so weird. Kiko was all over the map with his playing time. And then Hicks was a ball hog when he was playing. He was logging all the shares, or all the snap share. I hate to throw around the word injury prone, or the words injury prone, but Michael Kendricks can't stay on the damn field. Period. Dude is always banged up. And Hicks, being the Longhorn fan that I am, was about as injury-riddled as a college player has ever been. He was at the University of Texas for 9 years because he had medical red shirts and all kinds of crazy stuff. He was always hurt. So you don't want to roll that too much into your valuation of these guys, but it's got to come into play at some point, especially with Kendricks. What's the most? I have no idea. No numbers in front of me. I'd almost guarantee he's never played 16. I'd almost guarantee he's never played 12. Dude is
I don't know about that.
Up. He's so good, though. There is nobody in the game better at the line of scrimmage than Mike Kendricks. Nobody.
I'd be interested to see how that.
You know what? I bet 2013 Kendricks played quite a bit.
Yeah,
or 12, one of those two. I think he's 2012 class or 2013. I don't know. Whatever.
So let's just go ahead and hit up the second part of his question.
All right, this is a good one here because man, all of the talk of the cinnamon bun Oreos. Have you tried the pumpkin spice ones? He also says they're delicious without milk. Pumpkins aren't meant for human consumption in any form, period. It's a great question. A lot of people really like pumpkins, but they are absolute trash. No pumpkin beer, no pumpkin coffee, no pumpkin cake, pumpkin cookie, all garbage.
Tyler and I agree almost entirely on this one. Pumpkin spice as a genre, I guess, of food is throw it out. Useless. But if you do not like pumpkin pie with some Cool Whip, you're wrong.
No, won't touch the shit. Never had it. I mean, we're here in the South, man. I grew up in the South. Never had a bite. Never had a bite of that nasty shit. Have you ever made a jack-o'-lantern?
Fuck no.
All right. Well, you cut the top of the pumpkin off, and you look inside there, and it's like zombie brains up in that nasty motherfucker. I mean, who wants to eat that? That is disgusting. And that's what people say. Well, that's not where it comes from. I don't care. I've seen the inside of a pumpkin. And so I've made this association very, very early in my life that anything pumpkin flavored tastes like what that looks like, and I'm out.
All right. And while we talked about this, I knew you were wrong. In 2012, he played 15. In 2013, he played 15. In 14, he played 12. And this year, he played 13.
Yeah, it's bogus. It's not right. I'm right. I don't know numbers, whatever.
Let's subtract a game or two for the game where he got injured at the start of it or he got injured in the middle of it. He's still got at least 2 seasons over 12 games.
You're right. I know. I just got it in my head because I'm like, God damn, can I ever get Kendricks in my lineup? Ever?
It's a perception is reality thing. I said it just like Burnett this last year. I felt like I didn't start him once this whole entire year. But I'm sure I did. Well, I know I did because I ended up leaving him on roster.
Yeah, you did because the Packers never play at noon, ever. So if Packers have questionable guys, well, you're just rolling the dice, man.
Especially if I'm not on my phone or on the computer getting ready to switch it out before the 4 o'clock games.
I'm usually, off in La La Land by that time. And then the game kicks off and you're like, hold on. Too late.
Yep. All right, so this next one is coming from @_from big supporter of the show. We appreciate it, bud. He said, "Hey guys, who are your biggest movers up or down after the combine workouts?" And I completely forgot this name when we were talking about it and I wanted to bring it up was Keith Marshall. This is the second year in a row that a Georgia player has come out with zero hype, no attention on him at all, and been a metric freak. Marshall destroyed the combine. And it's not like he got buried behind legitimate talent, so you can't even be mad at that. It's like Martavis Bryant being stuck behind Hopkins and Sammy. Like, okay. So he's the third best out of the three of them. That's still not bad. But if he's stuck behind Gurley and Chubb, both guys who are, should be first-round picks, he's got the potential to be a guy that's going to be worth something like the third round of your draft. Because he doesn't have a ton of production, so it's not one of those guys where I'm taking with a second round pick, especially an early one. But he's the kind of lotto ticket I'd be all about because he can pay off in spades. In terms of movers up and down, De'Runnya Wilson completely fell off my board. He wasn't on it that much recently anyways, but no thank you. I feel Prosise didn't really move on my board, but I feel much more secure about where I have him on my board right now. So that's nice. And that's pretty much what I have. Will Fuller it's same with Prosise. I feel more secure about where I have him ranked.
Yeah, we don't really go dumping guys completely off the board unless they do De'Runnya things and that's just so bad that you can't ignore it. Paul Perkins was about exactly what we thought he'd be or what you had hoped he would be, what everybody thought he was, good athlete. That's about it. We're talking about Keith Marshall. Keith Marshall was a 5-star recruit. I think he came in the same class as Gurley and was this ballyhooed recruit. And then he gets buried, like you said, behind some all-world talent. But he only had 600 yards rushing in his Georgia career, roughly 600 yards. You got to think if he was that good, they find a way to get him on the field. But still, third round of a rookie draft, you can get a guy that's running a 4.3. go for it. You know.
Honestly,
So.
it's assuming rational coaching, which the last few years it really hasn't felt like that's been what's happening. Not since what was their quarterback? He was nails for like the whole time he was there.
At Georgia?
Yeah. He ended up going to Kansas City in the draft.
God, I'm so old. I immediately was like Eric Zaire. You probably don't even know who Eric Zaire is. You're thinking of Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Murray a lot coming out, actually.
Yeah, he was good.
But it feels like not since then have they had a really efficient offense or they've had a good game plan with their offense. And it's probably why Conley never showed anything because there wasn't a chance to. It was just a shit show. But, like you said, there's only 600 career rushing yards, so temper expectations. But in the third round, most guys are a lotto ticket anyways. Why not take the guy that's got some real upside? He was a 5-star recruit. That doesn't just happen by accident. Yeah, there's a bunch of 5-star recruits that don't pan out at all, and this could be one of them, but why not take a shot?
Yeah, there's some definite correlation between how they came out as, a high school, as a prep recruit, as to how they do throughout their entire football career, and it's there. The highly pedigreed guys are highly pedigreed guys for a reason. So, next question from our buddy Bill Lattin over at Dynasty Football Warehouse. Value of the 1.3 pick in rookie dyno drafts, and who do you have there? So the value. Well, where are we going to value that in terms of, say a startup? Where's that 1.3 going? 4th round?
Late 4th, early 5th, probably.
Who are we looking at? We're going to be looking at.
I'll be looking at Boyd.
We're looking at one of 3 guys here. It's Treadwell, Boyd, Doxson. Right? I think we're pretty locked in. That would be our top 4 for both of us. Even though you want to hate Treadwell more than that, you can't have him out of your top 4.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
So, it's still premium pick, man. It's a good pick. It's a good football player. Any way you slice it.
I'll tell you, I'm almost if I have 103, I'm probably moving it. Give me like the 109 and a nice piece on top of it, and make sure you're not just giving it away. But I'd rather just collect the talent that's maybe a half a tier lower than what's going to be at 103. And it already sounds like I'm going negative on Boyd, but I feel very demoralized after this weekend.
Well, if he had been even 205, it'd be a world of difference.
Yeah.
Because when you're sub 200 pounds and you're not putting down a 4.4, that just doesn't say a whole lot, as far as what you're going to be at the next level, who you're going to be. It's never going to be an elite 1 at that weight with that speed. It's just not even possible, is it?
It's not likely. That's why I'm going to dig into the numbers and see if it's even been a thing. And I hate judging. I'll use metrics and say a guy's done this before. It's possible, but it's not likely. So statistically, it may not make sense, but he's probably not the same player that 90% of those other guys that ran slower than him are. So I got words here and I want to say them, but I can't figure out how to word them. I want to judge a player on their own merits with using the metrics just kind of as a reference almost. I don't know if that's the right word, but I still like Boyd a lot, even though his numbers were not fantastic. I thought he was going to be more athletic than he was. His comp for a lot of people is Keenan Allen. And yeah, Keenan Allen ran like a 4.7, didn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't fast at all.
But he was also broke. Yeah. So my thought was a more athletic Keenan Allen. Well, that was wrong apparently, because he was 100. He was a 1/10 of a second faster than broke Dick Keenan Allen. But if he's Keenan Allen, I'm happy with that. I love Keenan
I
Allen.
think he's a Landry type player, which is fantastic too. I mean, if his ceiling is what Jarvis Landry's done the last couple of years, groovy. If you get that at 1.3 in a rookie draft, you're doing okay. You know, I think a lot of it is, we're talking about Boyd in the context of being a top 2, 3, 4 rookie pick and not a late first. If he's a late first, we're gaga over him. But he's not. And he's not. I don't think he's going to be either. I still don't think he's going to get out of, the mid first when the dust settles.
There's a lot of guys who have him in the late first on their board, 109, 110. And granted, I'm still going to move up. I'm still going to be closer to where I rank him than closer to where the ADP is, just because I don't want to risk it. We did it with Diggs. I was taking him second round because if you truly, believe in a guy, I'll overpay to get him, because I'd rather in a year have overpaid on a guy and got him than missed because I wanted to pay what was appropriate pricing. Nothing sucks more than missing out on your guy because you were being stupid.
Because you got cute.
Exactly.
But it's a lot easier to roll that dice in the mid-second. A lot easier.
For sure.
Take it from the guy that spent a 105 on Jalen Strong last March. That could still work out.
Yep.
But it's unlikely.
But if you're running, the 108, 109, well, that's contrary to what I just said, because I would probably take him earlier than that. But you're already a borderline playoff team.
Yeah.
So maybe you're waiting for young talent to develop, and you're going to be a playoff team next year. Boyd's a good addition to that, because you can wait for him to develop. You can wait for him to get settled in his situation. But I keep going back to his production. He had an early breakout age. His production is fantastic. His hands are fantastic. His athleticism sucks. If he improves his route running more and learns how to get separation through his footwork like Anquan Bolden does, this is, he's got a real career ahead of him. And that's, you can't teach hands, but you can teach better route running. I don't think we're going to go a week without talking about Boyd on the show, but
it's just not going to happen.
And I understand for like 95% of y'all listening that you think I'm out of my mind, and I completely understand that. I am willing to recognize that, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah, hey. I mean, what's dynasty football without a little bit of lunacy? If you're not at least a little bit of a lunatic, you're probably not having any fun playing. You got to be a little bit crazy.
Exactly. If you're not gambling, you're not taking some risk. What's the fun? What? I could go invest in the safe player every time, and maybe I'll win a championship here or there. But I'd rather just get the guys that, when it's time for me to go to my championship, I'm gonna curb stomp everybody through the playoffs, and I'm gonna do it for 2 or 3 years straight. Or I'm gonna miss, and I'm gonna get a lot of 101s.
It's dominance. That's the name of the game. I want to dominate. I don't want to consistently make the playoffs. I want to beat the hell out of everybody. I either want to have the 101 or the 111, 112. I actually had a really good dynasty year last year, because we were talking about this draft earlier, and I was like, I'm either picking early or late. And, it's early or late. I don't have anything in like the 105, 106. And I got to think, you know what? That means things went according to plan for me this year. So, yeah, but in order to dominate, you got to speculate. You got to roll the dice.
Yeah, see, I'm going to have a lot of those 108s, 109s, because it seemed like across the board in my leagues, I just had a terrible week 1 of the playoffs. I had 2 teams that escaped that week.
The playoffs. The fucking playoffs.
But, I mean, I'm still happy going into next year. I mean, I had a bunch of teams that made the playoffs and should have done well. If it was guaranteed every week, there'd be no fun in that either.
True. It's like poker. If you play 1,000,000 hands and you do the right thing 1,000,000 times, you're going to come out a winner. Same with fantasy football. You keep doing the right thing, the luck will go your way. or the bad luck won't whack you over the head.
Yeah, and we're just going to hit up one quick question from our buddy Pat at RavageFF. With the disappointing wide receiver combine performances, would you consider Zeke at 101 the stronger play? And Tyler and I completely agree on this. Zeke is the locked-in 101 for both of us right now. Just that's it. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, lock it down. And I don't remember the last time I felt this clear about it. It's been a while.
I've never felt this clear about it.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because there's always been guys I liked, or there's never been, even with Sammy, sometimes I can see people arguing over Mike Evans over him. I wasn't taking Cooks over him because that seemed silly, but I still took Cooks over Evans, which in my head was not silly.
And still remains to be seen. I mean, they're right next to one another, as far as the consensus goes right now.
But
I'm still all over Mike Evans.
Oh, I am too. Absolutely.
I don't care.
But we were all wrong in that, because if we could see the future, OBJ would have been the consensus 101.
He would have been worth 4 Sammy Watkins.
Oh, we did not get him. We drafted Devontae Adams and Carlos Hyde over OBJ more than a few times.
Oh!
Yeah.
I could have had him everywhere. I took J-Matt over him twice.
Yep, I did that.
Man, it hurts.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
2 QB. Oh, that hurts, man. Oh.
Oh man. Our last fantasy football question comes from at Empire FFL. Gurley's amazing, but on that terrible team in a division with good defenses, will his actual production consistently reflect his talent, or are we always going to be doomed to multiple games where he disappears each year? I think that despite the fact that there's good defenses, well, first of all, anything can change from year to year. Remember, San Francisco used to be a lock to go to the NFC Championship, fighting for a Super Bowl, and now I don't even know how to describe them. It's not good. Seattle, I don't see Seattle or Arizona doing that, but it could happen. Shit just could go off the rails, in quick, fast, and in a hurry, and then he's running over, subpar defenses. I think Gurley will be able to perform fairly well. I think he's going to take hits. His production may not be as good as some of his bigger games, but he's still going to be usable. He's not going to be a guy you bench because he's just that good. And, we talk about, Seattle and Arizona having such good defenses. The Rams have just gone to town on the Seahawks at least once a year for like the past 3 years, and it's been ugly. So why not? That can be a Gurley game, and I think locking in a mediocre offense for Gurley's career is putting the cart in front of the horse. Because they can only let Jeff Fisher coach for so long, right? I mean, they saw what he did in Tennessee when he went 8-8 all those times. They can't keep letting him do it here, can they?
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not going to roll his current situation into my valuation of him. Gurley. He's fantastic. He's my number 2 Dino running back. He's a first overall, or not a first overall. He's a first-round startup pick. He's amazing. His usage in this particular offense last year is what kind of bummed me out. Because without the big-time involvement in the passing game, we found his floor, and his floor is in the basement with Jeff Fisher, at least. So I'm not too worried about it. In terms of the question, could it hurt? Yeah, sure. But 5 games into the season, it could be a non-issue. A year from now when Jeff Fisher's not the coach, it could be a non-issue. There's so much that changed. We're going to bet on the talent, and Gurley is generational. He's that good. He took a running back in Trey Mason that was pretty damn good as a rookie and put his ass on the bench. Coming off of major knee surgery, Gurley was. And as soon as he was ready to go, it's 20 carries a game. Let's go get it. So just an amazing player. I'm not too worried about the situation in the short term, maybe a little bit. But like Drew said, he's in your starting lineup. If he's active, he's in your lineup every week, period. And I would never even question that.
I mean, say their offense stays the way it is. They don't, have better QB play. That means they're going to be running more on the running game anyways. And Gurley's good enough to where even if they know he's going to run, he's still going to do some work. So, yeah, I mean, it sucks. His ceiling could be higher, but I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're comparing Gurley to Le'Veon Bell. And that's the only player I'm comparing him to. When I'm saying all this stuff in my mind, I'm thinking Gurley versus Le'Veon. And if Gurley played for Pittsburgh, cool. He put up Le'Veon Bell numbers. And if Le'Veon played, if Le'Veon played for St. Louis, he put up Gurley numbers. I mean, that's the only difference here. But that changes so fast. So fast. Look at Sammy Watkins. All the talk last year was situation, blah, 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 blah. And then he came out, and it wasn't pretty to start with. But then they figured out, hey, wait a second. This guy's really, really, really good. Let's get him the football. Boom. Take a situation, throw it out the window. Didn't matter anymore. It changes that fast. And coaches get fired at an exponential rate in the NFL.
It's funny. There was like an instant reaction week after week one with Sammy. And wasn't it that they played Carolina week one, didn't they?
I think so.
I think he had Josh Norman on him, and they didn't throw to him all game.
Yeah.
And you know what? It ended up working out fairly well with them. They stayed competitive through the game, so maybe it was the right call.
I mean, Sammy had some turds this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some turds. But he really turned it on when it mattered.
Yep. And we're actually doing really good on time this week, so we're going to hit our last question. It's a little bit silly. Comes from @XDynastyGMX. Where do you guys stand on the Keebler brand? Any love or any value? Keebler's good. I like Keebler. They the little round flowery ones with the chocolate stripes and the chocolate on the back, those are good. I like those. The Vienna fingers that are just long cookies with cream in between them, those are good too. What else do they make?
Oh, they those little elves in a tree, man, that they do wonders with peanut butter. Like the little wafer cookies. They're almost like the little nutty bars.
Oh, yeah,
those are very good. And then my all-time favorite Keebler cookie is a grasshopper. It's kind of similar to the Thin Mints.
Oh.
The Girl Scout cookie, the Thin Mints. A grasshopper is amazing. And back home, I'm from Lubbock. There was an ice cream shop there that made a grasshopper, like blizzard kind of thing. Oh, my God. So good. Big fan of Keebler. Huge fan.
Oh, apparently they also put out like Famous Amos cookies.
Well, hell.
Yeah.
Well, we're in business. I was just thinking of, the little packet with the elf on it.
Yeah. And then they make the Chips Deluxe, the kind of the knockoff, thicker Chips Ahoy cookie.
Probably better version of Chips Ahoy.
They are. If they made a chewy Chips Deluxe, they'd win.
I love chewy cookies.
So good.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time to pick up all the crumbs.
I mean, and my teeth hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ain't nobody got time
I know
for
what you mean.
Cookies. So much junk food.
Oh. I think at this point I've got more letters in my name than I do teeth in my head.
That's probably about right.
It's upsetting.
Hey, at least we're not going bald.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'll never go bald. So I've got every affliction known to man, but I won't go bald.
Well, I mean, we kind of already had a couple random rants throughout the show. I feel like we don't need one this week, especially one where we get actually angry. Trying to clear that negativity out of my life. Trying to be happy. Not working all that well so far because I get angry at everybody. Yeah. But if I can stop a little bit, maybe it'll get better in time. But this is it's about time to call it. You got any parting shots for us, bud?
Nope.
All right. Check out the recent articles I've been putting out. I've been breaking down rookie IDP prospects over at UTH.com. I've been doing the series with at JoJo Mags, who is awesome. We've been having a blast putting them out. Our next one is going to be on Shaq Thompson.
Shaq Lawson.
Shaq Lawson.
Another guy who killed the combine.
Every time I want to say Shaq Lawson, I think Shaq Thompson. And
it's because the brain, I mean, we love to love Shaq Thompson.
Dude. But yeah, that one should be coming to you some point this week. And guys, thank you so much for listening. We're actually about to hit 1,000 downloads on last week's episode. Our 50th episode, which I totally forgot to make a point to mention yesterday or last week. It's crazy how much it's blown up. So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, champagne, bells and whistles. There's so many Dino podcasts out there, and the fact that you guys are tuning into us kind of blows my mind a little bit because we're just two dudes with not even particularly hot takes. We're just kind of hanging out. So we really, really do appreciate it. It's awesome.
Like, we don't have any advanced metrics. We're not qualified. We're just, when we started this thing, we weren't even like recognized. It was just, hey, here's what I got to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody,
where do you write? Well, nowhere.
I write my binder sometimes.
Well, and our buddies, and everybody that's supported us and retweets us, and it's just really cool. And DLF, thank you to Dynasty League Football for having us on the site. We're on the DLF site with all the other podcasts. That's pretty cool, man. So big shout out to Dickens and Moody and those guys. It's great, man.
It really is, and it's gonna get way better this offseason. It's draft time. This is our time to shine. This is when we really just hit our stride. So hopefully we'll start covering more prospects during shows. Keep your eye out for IDP playbooks. I want to start getting at least one of those out a month, at least for the off season. And we'll keep the content coming. So just thank you guys for listening. This has been the Dynasty Playbook. I've been your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DrewDotsonNFL. With me has been my excellent co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBombIDP. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.